The arrogant virgin CEO mocked his divorced wife looks until he saw her at the gala and lost it. A passing waiter refilled their glasses. Blake noticed how the other executives in the room kept glancing their way, the whispers behind hands, the speculation. His reputation had always been built on appearing untouchable. Tonight, that image was cracking. Have you ever seen someone from your past and barely recognized them? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Champagne glasses clinked around him like tiny bells of triumph. But Blake Harrington's hand froze mid-air when she walked in. The woman he discarded looking nothing like the memory he'd buried. The Southern Tech Innovators Gala in Savannah was supposed to be his victory lap. Blake had just closed another 8-figure deal, surrounded by Georgia's elite who hung on his every word. Then the crowd parted. Monica entered wearing an emerald gown that clung to curves he didn't remember, her once timid posture replaced by something magnetic. Her hair, previously always pulled back in that practical bun he'd mocked, now cascaded in waves past her shoulders. But it wasn't just the dress or the hair. It was the confidence radiating from her that made his chest tighten. "Who is that with Monica?" whispered Diana, his executive assistant. Blake couldn't answer because his focus had locked on the tall, distinguished man with his hand resting on Monica's lower back. The possessive gesture sent an unexpected surge of heat through Blake's body. "Ethan Cole," said someone nearby, "the New York investor. Word is he's looking to acquire tech assets in the Southeast." Blake's jaw clenched. Ethan Cole had been circling his company for months. A memory flashed. Monica's skin against his, their last night together before he'd decided she no longer fit his image. How her eyes had searched his face as if already knowing he was gone. Back then, he'd felt nothing but impatience. Now, watching her laugh at something Ethan said, Blake felt something he hadn't experienced in years: uncertainty. Whispers swirled around him. Something about Monica consulting on Ethan's acquisitions. Something about insider knowledge. Something about Blake's company being the primary target. "They're coming this way," Diana murmured. Blake straightened his tuxedo jacket, summoning his practiced charm. But as Monica's eyes found his across the ballroom, the cool assessment in her gaze chilled him to the bone. In that moment, he knew Monica wasn't just back in his world. She was here to take it. Have you ever seen someone from your past and barely recognized them? That moment when someone you thought you knew transforms into someone you suddenly want? Comment below if you've experienced that jarring realization. 2 years earlier, Blake had watched Monica pack her modest clothes without shedding a tear, never imagining those same hands would one day hold the key to his empire's destruction. "You don't need to take all that," he'd said from the doorway of their Atlanta mansion's master bedroom. "I could buy you new things, better things." Monica had continued folding her Target sweaters into the suitcase. "I prefer my own things, Blake. Suit yourself." He checked his Rolex impatiently. The lawyers said everything settled. The accounts should be transferred by morning. He remembered how small she looked then, how forgettable. Her plain cotton blouse, sensible shoes, the shadows under her eyes from crying when she thought he wasn't around. Nothing like the woman who'd just entered the gala, looking like she'd stepped off a magazine cover. "Will you tell me the truth now that it's over?" she'd asked, zipping the suitcase. Was there someone else? There hadn't been a specific woman. Just the endless pursuit of more. More status, more admiration, more conquests who match his rising profile. Monica had been his college sweetheart before Blake Tech became a household name, before he became someone who collected people like trophies. "It doesn't matter now," he'd replied, unable to meet her eyes. That night, after she'd gone, he'd hosted his inner circle. Expensive bourbon flowed as he joked about finally being free. To upgrading, his friend Marcus had toasted, and everyone laughed. What none of them knew was that Monica had taken something irreplaceable. A notebook containing early sketches of an algorithm Blake had dismissed when she'd first shown it to him. "Not everything needs to be turned into a product," he'd said patronizingly. Now, rumors suggested that very concept was about to revolutionize data security under Ethan Cole's company banner. In her tiny Savannah apartment, that first night alone, Monica had stood before her bathroom mirror, scissors in hand. "He won't recognize you when this is finished," she'd whispered to her reflection. "None of them will." She'd enrolled in business classes the next morning, applied for a part-time job at a boutique, started running along the riverfront at dawn, and every night, she refined the algorithm Blake had deemed worthless. 2 years was a long time to plan the perfect revenge. When did you last misjudge someone completely? When have you overlooked someone's potential because you were too busy looking elsewhere? Share your experience in the comments. Blake approached Monica with the confidence of a man who'd never been refused, until her smile stopped him cold, revealing a woman who now knew exactly what she was worth. "Monica," he said, extending a crystal flute of champagne. "You look different." "Different." She repeated the word with amusement, accepting the glass without letting their fingers touch. That's one way to put it. Up close, Blake noticed details that unsettled him. The subtle perfume that wasn't the department store fragrance he'd bought her every Christmas. The light-catching diamond studs he'd never given her. The cool appraisal in eyes that once looked at him with adoration. "Allow me to introduce Ethan Cole," she said, turning slightly. The New York investor stepped forward, his tailored suit and confident posture marking him as Blake's equal in ways that felt deliberate. His handshake was firm, his smile practiced. "Blake Harrington, your reputation precedes you," Ethan said. "Funny, I was about to say the same." Blake kept his tone light, though his eyes hardened. "I hear you've been interested in Southeast tech acquisitions. Only the promising ones." Ethan's hand returned to Monica's back, fingers splaying slightly against the bare skin exposed by her dress. The casual possessiveness of the gesture sent an unexpected surge of heat through Blake's body. "Monica has been invaluable in identifying opportunities," Ethan continued. "Her insight into market gaps is exceptional." Blake's gaze flickered to Monica. "I wasn't aware you developed an interest in tech investment." "There's a lot you weren't aware of, Blake." Her smile remained perfect, but something flashed in her eyes. "My life in Savannah has been quite educational." A passing waiter refilled their glasses. Blake noticed how the other executives in the room kept glancing their way, the whispers behind hands, the speculation. His reputation had always been built on appearing untouchable. Tonight, that image was cracking. "We should catch up," Blake said, his smile not reaching his eyes. For old time's sake, Monica leaned closer, her perfume triggering memories he'd tried to forget. "We're catching up, Blake. In fact, Ethan and I have an appointment with your board tomorrow. Didn't they tell you?" The champagne turned bitter on his tongue. "What appointment?" "About the vault key algorithm," Ethan supplied smoothly. "Your company's been trying to develop something similar for years, I understand." Blake's chest tightened. Vault key. The project his team had failed to crack, despite millions in R&D. The concept Monica had sketched years ago in that notebook. "See you tomorrow, Blake," Monica said, turning away. The emerald dress shimmered as she moved, drawing every eye in the room, including his. What would you do if you came face to face with someone who once underestimated you, now suddenly interested when you no longer care? Drop a fire if you fantasized about such a moment. Blake had commanded this boardroom for 8 years, but today, watching Monica walk in with confidential documents he thought were buried, he realized the true meaning of hostile takeover. He'd arrived early, briefing his team, establishing dominance in space. Standard procedure before any high-stakes meeting. Diana had arranged coffee, water, the exact temperature Blake preferred. Everything controlled. Everything predictable. Until Monica entered in a tailored navy suit that somehow made her emerald gown from last night seem tame by comparison. "Good morning, gentlemen." She greeted the board members by name, names she shouldn't have known. The familiarity sent a warning signal through Blake's body. Ethan followed with a team of lawyers, their expressions professionally blank. This wasn't a casual meeting. This was an ambush. "We're here to discuss an opportunity," Monica began, distributing folders with practiced ease. Or rather, to correct an oversight. Blake opened his folder and froze. Staring back at him were pages from a notebook he thought was gone. detailed notes in Monica's neat handwriting, dated from 3 years ago. Early concepts for what his company now called Project Garrison, their most ambitious security platform. As you can see, Monica continued, the foundational algorithm for your security system was developed during my marriage to Blake. Under Georgia law, intellectual property created during a marriage can be considered marital property. The board chairman, Robert Dixon, shot Blake a concerned look. Mr. Harrington, were you aware of this? Blake maintained his composure with effort. These are preliminary sketches at best. Our R&D team developed the actual technology independently. Did they? Monica's smile was razor-sharp as she produced a second document, a timeline showing her notebook entries alongside Blake Tech's development milestones. The correlation was undeniable. That algorithm was developed during our marriage, Monica said evenly to the shocked board members. And I have the original notes to prove it was my concept. Blake loosened his tie slightly, feeling the room's temperature rise. From the corner of his eye, he caught Diana watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read, concern mixed with something else. Something possessive. Ethan stepped forward. We're not here to create problems. We're offering a solution. A partnership between Cole Ventures and Blake Tech with Ms. Harrington. Ms. Wilson, Monica corrected firmly. Ms. Wilson, consulting on further development. We believe this could be mutually beneficial. Blake's throat tightened as 15 years of success balanced on a knife's edge, held by the woman whose tears he'd once ignored. Have you ever witnessed someone reclaim their power in a space where they were once diminished? How did it make you feel? Tell me about a time you, or someone you know, turned the tables. Blake had built his fortune through calculated risks, but inviting Monica to dinner alone was the most dangerous gamble he'd ever made. She agreed, Diana asked, surprise evident in her voice when Blake mentioned the dinner. After that board meeting, Blake straightened his tie in his office's reflection. I could be persuasive when necessary. What he didn't say. It had taken 3 calls and the involvement of Robert Dixon to get Monica to agree. What he didn't admit. The relief that had washed over him when she finally said yes had felt disproportionate to the business stakes involved. He'd chosen Ardent, Savannah's most exclusive restaurant, securing a private corner table overlooking the Savannah River. The kind of place where discretion came with the astronomical prices. Monica arrived precisely on time, wearing a simple black dress that somehow emphasized everything about her that had changed. She no longer hunched her shoulders slightly forward as she had during their marriage. She no longer looked to him first when entering a room. No Ethan tonight? Blake asked as the sommelier poured a vintage he remembered she once loved. This is a business dinner, Blake. I didn't think we needed an audience. Her voice was cool, controlled. Candlelight cast shadows across her face, highlighting cheekbones that seemed more defined than he remembered. Had they always been there, beneath the insecurity he'd cultivated in her? You've changed, he said finally. You've grown. She sipped her wine. There's a difference. The algorithm is mine, she finished firmly. You dismissed it when I showed you. Called it cute that I was trying to understand your work. The memory hit him with unexpected force. Monica tentatively showing him her notebook, her excitement, his patronizing response. He'd been distracted, heading out to meet investors more important than his wife's ideas. I made mistakes, he admitted, the words unfamiliar on his tone. Mistakes? Her laugh lacked humor. You discarded me, Blake. Like last season's smartphone. Outdated. No longer compatible with your operating system. Her tech metaphor wasn't lost on him, nor was the hurt beneath her polished exterior. What do you really want, Monica? Money? Company shares? She leaned forward, the movement causing her necklace to catch the light. I want you to understand what it feels like to have something valuable taken from you. His hand moved impulsively, covering hers on the table. The contact sent an unexpected current through his arm. Her skin was warm, soft, familiar yet foreign. Monica didn't pull away immediately. Something flickered in her eyes, a moment of vulnerability quickly masked. I'm not here to destroy you, Blake, she said, her fingers wrapping around the wine glass. Destruction is quick. Why a plan will take much longer. Her smile sent heat racing through his body, desire and fear becoming impossible to separate. When is attraction more dangerous? When it's new, or when it's tied to someone who once broke your heart? Share your thoughts below on whether second chances come with higher stakes. She named her price with the casual confidence of someone who knew exactly how desperate he'd become. Not money, not shares, but something far more intimate. I want you to work with me directly on finalizing the technology, Monica said, setting down her fork with precision. No proxies, no teams. Just you and me, developing the complete system. Blake nearly choked on his wine. That's impossible. I have a company to run, and I have an algorithm you need. Her expression remained impassive. 1 month, Blake, at the Coast House in St. Simon's Island. We finish what I started, and then Cole Ventures and Blake Tech launch it together. The Coast House, their former weekend retreat, where they'd spent the early years of marriage before Blake got too busy for getaways, before he got too important for simple pleasures. And if I refuse, then Ethan acquires a controlling interest in your company through your suddenly nervous board members, and I consult from a comfortable distance. She shrugged. Your choice. Blake studied her face, searching for the woman who once couldn't say no to him. She was gone. This new Monica calculated moves like a chess master. What does Ethan think about this arrangement? Something flashed across her expression, the first crack in her perfect composure. He disagreed. Strongly. Interesting. Trouble in paradise? Blake filed away this information for later. 1 month seems excessive. 1 month is necessary. She leaned forward. The security protocols need refining. Unless you'd prefer, I handle the integration alone. The thought of Monica having complete control over his company's future made his stomach tighten. Your boyfriend won't mind us playing house for a month. Ethan isn't my boyfriend. Her clarification came too quickly. And we won't be playing anything. This is business, Blake. Something you taught me to prioritize above all else. His phone buzzed with a text from Robert Dixon. Whatever she wants. Bored as spook. Blake pocketed his phone, decision made. 1 month. Starting tomorrow. I'll have Diana clear my schedule. Monica's smile held no warmth. No existence, Blake. No Diana. No distractions. Just you, me, and the code. As she stood to leave, her perfume lingered, reminding him of a time when their bodies communicated what words couldn't. Before success and ambition hollowed him out. Before he mistook power for happiness. 1 month, she repeated, gathering her purse. Don't be late. Would you ever collaborate with someone who once undervalued you? At what price would you consider it worth the emotional risk? Comment your thoughts below. The Coastal Georgia Tech Retreat was meant for collaboration, but watching Monica walk toward the beach house in the fading light, Blake recognized a more dangerous project beginning, remembering why he once loved her. St. Simon's Island hadn't changed in the 5 years since they'd last visited. The same salt-weathered exterior of their beach house. The same pathway through sea oats leading to the water. But everything else had transformed. Monica unlocked the door with familiar ease, rolling her suitcase into the open concept living area. I had the place cleaned yesterday, she said without looking at him. Your room is still the master. I'll take the guest bedroom. Blake paused at this unexpected consideration. During their marriage, he'd made all such decisions. The house smelled of lemon polish and ocean air. Through the windows, gray clouds gathered over the Atlantic, promising an evening storm. Fitting weather for the tension crackling between them. We should start tonight, Monica said, already unpacking her laptop at the dining table. The foundational code needs review before we build the interface. Blake shed his jacket, loosening his tie. No small talk first. Catching up on old times. We've wasted enough time. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, all business. For 3 hours, they worked in tense silence, punctuated only by technical discussions. Monica's coding knowledge had evolved dramatically. Where she once asked him questions, she now led, identifying weaknesses in his security architecture he hadn't recognized. When did you learn advanced encryption? He finally asked. Night classes, then online certification. She didn't look up. Some people improve themselves when they lose everything. The barb landed precisely where intended. Near midnight, Blake went to the kitchen for coffee. On the refrigerator hung a magnet he didn't recognize, holding a faded photograph. Monica and an elderly woman beside a hospital bed. The woman's resemblance to Monica was unmistakable. "Your mother?" he asked, returning with 2 mugs. Monica glanced up, then quickly back to her screen. "Yes, after her surgery. You never mentioned she was ill. You never asked." She accepted the coffee without meeting his eyes. "You were busy with the Singapore expansion." Another hit landing cleanly. Blake recalled canceling weekend plans, Monica's quiet disappointment, his irritation at her neediness. From outside came the sound of a car, door closing. Monica tensed, checking her watch. "Expecting someone?" Blake asked. Before she could answer, a knock came at the door. Monica moved quickly to answer it, stepping outside and pulling the door nearly closed behind her. Through the crack, he saw Monica press her hand to Ethan's chest, whispering words that stopped Blake cold. "We can't keep this up forever. Eventually, he'll discover what we're really doing." Have you ever found yourself in close quarters with someone from your past, feeling old emotions resurface? How did you handle the invisible pull between history and the present? Share your experience. During thunderstorms, the Georgia coast became a primal place where lightning illuminated truths impossible to see in daylight, including the hunger in Monica's eyes when she thought Blake wasn't looking. The storm hit with tropical ferocity around midnight. Wind howled around the beach house's corners while rain lashed the windows like thrown pebbles. Monica had explained away Ethan's visit as delivery of additional research materials, but the tension in her shoulders told a different story. They worked until the inevitable happened. The power went out with a decisive click, plunging the house into darkness. "There's a generator," Blake said, reaching for his phone's flashlight. "It never worked right," Monica replied, her voice closer than he expected in the darkness. "Don't you remember?" He didn't. Another detail he'd overlooked during their marriage. Monica's phone illuminated her face from below as she navigated to the kitchen. "I brought emergency supplies. Candles are in the drawer." Soon, the living room glowed with warm light. Outside, lightning cracked across the sky, momentarily turning night to day. Thunder followed immediately, rattling the windows. "We should save battery power," Monica said, shutting down her laptop. She sat on the couch, tucking her legs beneath her, a familiar posture from their early days together. Blake poured 2 glasses of bourbon, offering one to her. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, a contact that shouldn't have felt significant, but somehow did. "To successful partnerships," he toasted, his voice lower than intended. She sipped without responding, her eyes reflecting candlelight and calculation. "Why did you keep the photograph?" Blake asked suddenly. "Of your mother in the hospital." Monica looked away. "To remember what matters." "And what's that?" "Being there for people who need you." Her words hung between them, heavy with accusation. Lightning flashed again, illuminating moisture in her eyes. She quickly blinked away. "I should have been there," Blake admitted, the words feeling foreign on his tongue. "For surgery. For you. Yes, you should have." No absolution offered. "When did we stop talking, Monica? Really talking?" "Around the time you started believing your own publicity." She set down her glass. "Around the time I became an accessory instead of a partner." Thunder crashed, closer now, the storm directly overhead. "I never stopped," Blake began, but Monica pressed her fingers to his lips, her eyes reflecting candlelight and conflict. "Don't say things tonight that you won't mean in the morning," she whispered. "Because this time I might believe you." When was the last time a charged moment with someone made you question everything you thought you wanted? Have you ever stood at the edge of a decision that could change everything? Tell me below. Technology could be controlled with code and algorithms, but as Monica's hand brushed over the keyboard, Blake realized some connections couldn't be programmed or forgotten. 3 days of intensive work had produced remarkable progress. The algorithm Monica had conceptualized years ago now formed the backbone of a security system unlike anything on the market. Blake found himself genuinely impressed by her technical knowledge and increasingly disturbed by his awareness of her proximity. "Try it now," Monica said, leaning toward the screen. Her hair fell forward, carrying the scent of coconut shampoo. Blake entered the test sequence. The system processed it flawlessly. It works. He couldn't keep the amazement from his voice. Of course it works. Her smile held genuine pride. The quantum encryption makes it practically unhackable. Their eyes met in a moment of shared accomplishment. The kind of connection they'd had in the early days when Blake was building his first successful program and Monica would stay up with him, offering suggestions, bringing coffee, believing in possibilities. His laptop chimed with an incoming email. Monica glanced at it automatically, then froze. Blake followed her gaze to the subject line. Coal acquisition timeline, confidential. He clicked it open before she could object. The message from Diana contained partial information about Ethan's company structure, with one line jumping out. Post-acquisition termination recommendations include M. Wilson as redundant to operations. Blake turned to Monica, whose expression had hardened. Care to explain why your partner plans to cut you loose after acquiring my company? You shouldn't read confidential emails meant for someone else, she deflected. And you shouldn't pretend this is a partnership when it's clearly something else. His voice rose. What are you and Ethan really planning? Because this looks like you're being used to get to me, then discarded. Like you discarded me. Monica stood abruptly. Don't pretend this is about protecting me. Then what is it about? Why this charade of working together? It wasn't supposed to be like this. The words burst from her. The algorithm was mine. My work. My ideas. All I wanted was recognition. Blake moved toward her, anger and attraction creating a dangerous cocktail. Recognition or revenge? Both. Neither. I don't know anymore. Her composure cracked completely, revealing the hurt beneath. You took my confidence, my self-worth. And now you're helping Ethan take my company. Their faces were inches apart, both breathing hard. You think I'm a threat? Monica laughed, her voice breaking as she backed away from his touch. Check your own company, Blake. Ask Diana about the files she's been sending to your competitors. The look of shock on his face confirmed what Monica had suspected. He still trusted the wrong people. How thin is the line between passion and anger? Between wanting someone and wanting to protect yourself from them? Share your thoughts on when attraction becomes a liability. Blake had built security systems to protect his technology from the world's most sophisticated hackers, but nothing had prepared him for the betrayal brewing within his inner circle, or the ally he'd find in the woman he once discarded. Diana wouldn't betray me, Blake insisted, pacing the beach house living room. She's been with me for 5 years. Monica's fingers flew across her keyboard. Then explain this. She turned her screen toward him. On it, a series of emails from Diana's account to an anonymous server containing Blake Tech proprietary information, including early drafts of the very security protocol they were developing. How did you access her emails? Blake demanded. I didn't need to. Ethan showed me these last month when he was convincing me to help him. Monica's expression was grim. He has a source inside your company feeding him everything, and it's not me. Blake sank onto the couch, mind racing. Diana had access to everything, his schedule, his contacts, his private servers. She'd been the one pushing him to reject Monica's initial contact. The one who'd appeared concerned when Monica showed up at the gala. Why would Ethan show you this? To prove how vulnerable you were, how easy the takeover would be. Monica moved to sit beside him, her voice softening. He thought it would motivate me, and did it. Her eyes met his, not in the way he expected. Blake ran his hands through his hair, processing this reversal. So what's your actual plan here? You get revenge on me. Then Ethan betrays you afterward. Initially, yes, minus the betrayal part. I didn't know about that until recently. Monica's honesty was startling. I wanted you to recognize my contribution, to admit what you took from me. And now I'm wondering if we're both being played. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture so familiar it made his chest ache. Ethan's been acquiring tech companies with military applications. I think he wants our encryption for government contracts, the kind that operate in gray areas of surveillance. The realization hit Blake with force. Weaponized privacy invasion. Exactly. The algorithm I designed was meant to protect people, not expose them. For hours, they dug deeper, tracking Diana's communications, mapping Ethan's acquisitions. Each discovery brought them physically closer, shoulders touching as they examined documents, fingers brushing as they passed information. Near midnight, Blake ordered room service to the upscale hotel suite he'd booked in Savannah, where they'd relocated to access his secure servers. As they spread documents across the king-sized bed, the domestic intimacy of the scene struck him. How natural it felt to be working alongside Monica again. "We need to move quickly," she said, her voice husky with fatigue. "Once Ethan realizes I'm not coming back to St. Simon's, he'll accelerate his timeline." Blake looked up, suddenly aware of how close she was, cross-legged on the hotel bed in her casual clothes, hair tied back, glasses perched on her nose. More beautiful to him now than in any emerald gown. "Why are you helping me?" he asked quietly. Her eyes met his, something vulnerable flashing there. "Because some things matter more than revenge. Because what we created shouldn't be weaponized." She leaned closer to point at a document, her arm pressing against his. The contact sent warmth through his body. When she looked up, their faces were inches apart. His phone buzzed, shattering the moment. A security alert from his office system. "We have 24 hours before they move against your company," Monica said, her hand steady on his arm. "I need to tell Ethan I'm working with you now." Blake caught her wrist, his voice low with warning. "Unless Ethan is part of this too. Have you considered that possibility?" The doubt that flashed across her face told him everything. When have you found yourself allied with someone you thought was your adversary? Does shared purpose ever heal past wounds? I'd love to hear your experiences with unexpected alliances. In the gleaming glass tower of Blake's Atlanta headquarters, Monica stood beside the man she'd once sworn to destroy, both knowing that by tomorrow, one of them might regret this fragile trust. The morning sun bounced off neighboring skyscrapers, casting patterns across the executive floor's marble surfaces. Employees glanced twice at Monica walking alongside Blake, whispers following in their wake. "They remember me," Monica murmured. The boss's ex-wife returning to the scene of the crime. "Let them talk," Blake replied, guiding her with a light touch at her elbow. "We have bigger problems." He'd assembled a small team of his most trusted board members in the private conference room, the same room where Monica had blindsided him days earlier. Now they entered as a united front, an alliance that still felt surreal to both of them. "Gentlemen," Blake began, "what I'm about to share stays in this room." For the next 20 minutes, he and Monica presented their findings: Diana's betrayal, Ethan's true intentions for the technology, the military applications that would violate privacy on a global scale. Robert Dixon, the board chairman, removed his glasses. "This is concerning, but we're days away from finalizing the coal partnership. The stock would plummet if we pulled out now." "Then we don't pull out," Monica countered. "We redirect. I've modified the core algorithm to include a failsafe, one that prevents exactly the kind of surveillance Ethan wants to implement." Blake watched her command the room with quiet authority. The woman who once deferred to him in every conversation now held seasoned executives spellbound. "We need 24 hours to implement the changes," Blake added, "without Diana knowing." Dixon nodded. "She's been locked out of the system?" "As of this morning. She thinks it's a routine security update." The elevator chimed outside the conference room. Through the glass walls, Blake saw Diana step out, her expression changing from confusion to alarm when she spotted Monica. "Keep her busy," Blake told Dixon. "We're heading to the server room." In the restricted access elevator, Blake and Monica stood closer than necessary, the tension between them shifting from adversarial to something more complex. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for protecting the technology. You could have let them take everything from me." Her eyes met his. "That's the difference between us, Blake. I never wanted to destroy what you built. I just wanted you to see what I could build too." The elevator doors opened to the basement level. As they stepped out, Monica's phone buzzed with an incoming text. Her face paled. "Ethan's here, upstairs, looking for me." Blake stepped in front of her instinctively, protective in a way he'd never been during their marriage. Can he access this floor? Before she could answer, the elevator chimed again. Ethan's eyes narrowed as he looked between them, noting their unconscious proximity. I see you've reconciled, he said coolly. That complicates things. His hand slipped inside his jacket, and Blake stepped in front of Monica before he could think, revealing everything Ethan needed to know about what had changed between them. When does protection become possession? When does working together become something more? Comment below if you've ever found yourself crossing lines you never expected to cross. The boardroom fell silent as three masquerades ended simultaneously. Ethan, the loyal partner, Diana, the trusted assistant, and the most dangerous pretense of all, that Blake and Monica were still immune to each other. You're making a mistake, Monica, Ethan said, his refined accent hardening as security escorted him into the conference room. We had an agreement. The agreement changed when I discovered what you really wanted the algorithm for. Monica stood her ground, arms crossed. Surveillance technology wasn't part of our deal. Blake watched this exchange with growing clarity. The pieces aligned: Ethan's military contracts, Diana's strategic position, the timing of Monica's reappearance in his life. Diana sat rigidly in a chair across the room, her composed facade crumbling under Robert Dixon's questioning. He approached me last year, she admitted finally. Said he could make me wealthy beyond imagination, while destroying the company that employed you, Blake noted coldly. A company where I was invisible. Diana's voice cracked. 7 years managing your life, Blake. 7 years watching you notice everyone but me. The raw jealousy in her voice made Monica glance between them with sudden understanding. Ethan straightened his custom suit jacket. This is simply business. Blake Tech is encryption technology, has applications beyond consumer privacy. Government contracts worth billions. For surveillance that violates every privacy protection we designed, Monica interrupted. The algorithm was meant to secure data, not expose it. Such idealism, Ethan scoffed. From a woman who partnered with me for revenge. Blake stepped forward. That's enough. Is it? Ethan's smile turned predatory. Did she tell you our partnership extended beyond business? Those nights in Savannah, working late on strategy? The insinuation landed like a physical blow. Blake's eyes found Monica's, questioning. There was nothing between us, she said firmly. Another miscalculation on his part. Security alerts suddenly blared through the building's speaker system. Robert Dixon checked his tablet, eyes widening. Someone's attempting to access the core servers remotely. Disable all external connections, Blake ordered, already moving toward the door. Monica, we need to implement the failsafe now. They raced to his private office, fingers flying across keyboards as they fought the invisible assault on their system. Adrenaline pushed everything else aside. Hurt, jealousy, confusion, leaving only their shared determination to protect what they'd built. Hours later, as evening shadows stretched across Atlanta's skyline, they sat in exhausted silence. The breach contained, the system secured, Ethan in discussions with corporate attorneys. Diana gone. We did it, Monica said softly. Blake looked at her, really looked at her, and saw both the woman he'd married and the stranger she'd become. Both versions ignited something in him he thought he'd buried. He crossed the room in 3 strides, cupping her face in his hands. Their lips met with years of unresolved tension, anger transforming into heat, regret into hunger. Her hands gripped his shirt, pulling him closer as the office door clicked locked behind them. Afterward, as they caught their breath against his desk, Monica's fingers traced patterns on his bare chest. This doesn't solve anything, she whispered. By morning, we still have to decide who gets to control the technology that could transform everything. His fingers traced her spine as he realized she was right. What they'd created together might yet tear them apart. Is there something uniquely powerful about reconnecting with someone who knew you before? About bodies remembering what minds try to forget? Share your thoughts on whether physical connection can bridge emotional divides. Dawn broke over Atlanta as Monica slipped from Blake's bed, carrying both afterglow and apprehension. Knowing that before sunset, She would have to choose between the man who'd reclaimed her heart and the future she'd fought to secure. His penthouse offered a panoramic view of the city waking up, a city where, 2 years ago, she'd felt invisible. Now she stood wrapped in his shirt, watching the sun paint gold across glass towers, acutely aware of the decision looming before her. Second thoughts already? Blake's voice came from behind her, husky with sleep. She turned to find him watching her, hair disheveled, eyes alert. Even now, he looked like success personified, the man whose confidence had once dazzled her, then crushed her. Many thoughts, she replied carefully, none of them simple. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, Ethan's name flashing on the screen. Blake's jaw tightened as she answered on speaker. "I'm offering you one chance, Monica." Ethan's voice filled the room. "Return to our original agreement. Full partnership, 20% ownership of the merged company. Blake keeps his position as figurehead CEO, but operational control shifts to us. And if I refuse?" Her voice remained steady despite Blake's intense gaze. "Then the material I have on Blake Tech's questionable data practices goes public this afternoon, and your algorithm becomes government property through emergency acquisition." The threat hung in the air. "You have until noon." After she hung up, Blake moved to the coffee machine, his bare shoulders tense. "What questionable data practices?" Monica sighed. "Nothing illegal, but practices that would alarm privacy advocates." "Ethan showed me the files. Part of his strategy to convince me you'd become everything I feared." She accepted the coffee he offered, their fingers brushing. "It worked at the time. And now I understand the gray areas better." Her honesty surprised even her. Success requires compromise sometimes, but there are lines that shouldn't be crossed. Blake's hand covered hers, like weaponizing privacy technology. Exactly. They showered together, the domestic intimacy more intoxicating than their passionate night. Preparing for battle side by side, they moved around each other with newfound synchronicity. Back at Blake Tech headquarters, they hunched over screens, refining the fail-safe Monica had designed, a kill switch that would render the algorithm useless for surveillance purposes without destroying its protective capabilities. "If we implement this," Blake said, "we risk losing the government contracts altogether." "Yes." Monica met his eyes directly. "That's the choice. Profit or principle. Those contracts represent billions in valuation." "I know." She didn't flinch. "What matters more to you now, Blake? The empire or what it stands for?" Before he could answer, Robert Dixon burst into the office. "Military intelligence just called. They're invoking national security to seize the technology. They'll be here within the hour. I won't let you surrender everything you've built," Monica said, downloading the core files to a secure drive. "But I can't let this technology be weaponized either." Before Blake could respond, the emergency alarm blared through the building. Ethan had made his move, and the choice was no longer theirs to make. When have you been torn between what your heart wants and what your principles demand? How do you choose when both options require sacrifice? Share your experience with impossible choices. With emergency lights bathing the server room in crimson, Blake realized the cruelest irony. He might lose his company tonight, but watching Monica fight for their shared vision, he'd finally found something more valuable. "Security teams are holding them at the lobby," Robert reported through Blake's earpiece. "But they have federal agents with them. Legal says we can't block them much longer." Monica worked feverishly at the main terminal, implementing the protection protocols they designed. Her fingers moved with precision despite the pressure, a calm at the center of chaos. "Almost done," she murmured. 3 minutes. Blake positioned himself between her and the door, ready to buy whatever time she needed. Strange how clear everything became in crisis. His priorities reshuffled completely from when he'd first seen her in that emerald dress. The elevator chimed its arrival. Ethan stepped out first, flanked by men in dark suits and Diana, whose eyes wouldn't meet Blake's. "This is unnecessary drama," Ethan said smoothly. "The acquisition paperwork is ready. The government representatives are upstairs. All we need is your signature." "On what terms?" Blake demanded. "Terms that recognize reality. Your company remains intact under new management. The technology gets deployed where it's needed. Everyone profits. Everyone except the millions of people who will lose their privacy, Monica countered without looking up from her work. Ethan's expression hardened. Privacy is an outdated concept, Monica. Security is what matters now. Your algorithm enables both. Not anymore. She straightened, stepping back from the terminal. It's done. The screens around them flickered, then stabilized. Ethan rushed to the nearest monitor, his composure cracking as he scanned the code. What have you done? His voice rose sharply. Insurance, Blake explained, moving to stand beside Monica. The algorithm now includes a public verification system. Any surveillance application triggers an automatic alert to the user. Complete transparency. You've destroyed its military value. Ethan's face flushed with anger. We've preserved its ethical value, Monica corrected. Its true purpose. The federal agents exchanged glances, clearly reassessing the situation. One made a phone call, stepping away to speak privately. Diana approached Blake cautiously. The board is waiting upstairs. They need a decision. In the conference room, tension thickened the air as Blake faced his board members and the government representatives. The acquisition contract sat at the center of the table, requiring only his signature to change everything. Monica stood slightly apart, giving him space to make his choice, though her eyes never left his face. If I sign this, Blake said, voice low enough that only Monica could hear, I lose control of my company. But if you walk away again, I lose something I can't rebuild. Monica picked up the pen. Her decision reflected in eyes that had once looked at him with love, then disappointment, and now something he couldn't quite name. What would you sacrifice for someone you once walked away from? Is redemption possible after betrayal? Tell me in the comments if you believe some connections are worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. 1 year after the emerald dress that changed everything, Monica stood in a different ballroom, no longer seeking revenge, but something far more valuable. A partnership where neither needed to diminish for the other to shine. The launch of the Harrington Wilson Privacy Foundation transformed the Atlanta tech landscape. Cameras flashed as Monica and Blake unveiled the open-source version of their encryption algorithm, now freely available to developers worldwide, with built-in protections against surveillance overreach. From personal vendetta to public good, whispered an industry reporter nearby. Never saw that plot twist coming. Blake caught Monica's eye across the podium, a private smile passing between them. Few understood the journey that had brought them here, the contract she'd torn in half that night in the boardroom, choosing transparency over takeover. The months rebuilding trust, both professional and personal. The decision to channel their combined brilliance into protection rather than profit. We believe privacy isn't a luxury, Monica told the assembled crowd, her confidence radiant without arrogance. It's a fundamental right that technology should enhance, not erode. Blake watched her with undisguised admiration. She wore blue tonight. No emerald needed to command attention. Her ideas, her vision, her integrity did that now. After their presentation, congratulations swirled around them. Former board members who doubted Monica now sought her insights. Competitors who tried to exploit their rift now propose collaborations. Ethan sent feelers about a possible partnership. Blake mentioned when they finally found a moment alone in his office overlooking the illuminated city. Monica laughed, perching on his desk. Some lessons take longer to learn than others. Diana's startup is doing well in California, he added. She sent a surprisingly sincere apology email. Forgiveness looks good on you. Monica's fingers traced his tie, though I prefer when you're not wearing quite so many layers. The door locked with a satisfying click as he pulled her against him, their bodies falling into the familiar rhythm they'd rediscovered over months of rebuilding. His desk had witnessed many such celebrations, private victories behind the public success story. Later, as they prepared to return to the gala, Monica paused before the mirror, adjusting her necklace, a subtle diamond key pendant Blake had given her when they launched the foundation. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't walked into that gala?" she asked. Blake considered this as he straightened his tie. "You would have succeeded without me. I would have continued thinking success meant what other people saw, not what actually mattered. And us." Some equations worked themselves out eventually. His arms encircled her from behind, their reflection showing two people who'd found something rare: equality after imbalance, respect after dismissal. As cameras flashed around their joint achievement, Blake's fingers found Monica's beneath the table. Not possessive, not desperate, but certain. The algorithm they created could calculate millions of possibilities per second, but even it couldn't have predicted this outcome: that sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover what was missing all along. If this journey from revenge to redemption touched you, hit subscribe for more stories that explore the complexities of second chances. Tell me in the comments, would you have taken a risk to rewrite your own ending?